This is the Church of. I am Michael T. Smith, and here is your message for the week of, February 2nd, 2025. We are talking about seasons. We are talking about what about our funeral? What about your funeral? Answering the question, one day we're going to come off days and start working night shift, right? And when that happens, they're going to talk about us, a couple of days after we're gone. What will that look like? Well, not just what will the end of life look like, what do we want the end of our year to look like, the end of this week to look like, the end of this day? How today can we get on with the business of living? And we've talked about our souls, and we've talked about our sin, and we've been talking about our season, and we're going to continue that today. 4 different thoughts. Thought A on season, you can take these down in your notes. What about the time of my life, right? When we deal with season, am I in my springtime, my summertime, my autumn time, or my winter time? We've talked about that in great detail. Then we talked about where am I, not just in the time of life, that's thought A, but thought B, where am I in the timeline of humanity? We're living in the raging 20s, and the rage however you want to. You can rage against the machine, or you can, rage in love, or whatever it is that you're doing here, but we are not in the roaring 20s, we're in the raging 20s. And there is the reality of the raging 20s is there's some ugly stuff going on, not only local, but out across the world, just like there was in the roaring 20s. And those are the realities. But then there's the romance. We look back at the roaring 20s and we say, it was a hard time and there was some ugly stuff going on, but in some juke joints, and there was some musicians playing, and the fashion was so great, and the technology and the talkies and all this stuff, and the moving pictures and all. So there's some reality that's harsh, but there was some romance, and we're living in it right now, and we're purposing to address, to confront, to play our role, to be the emerging not yet. Back in the 20s, there was already a place where black folks and white folks could assemble together. There was already in America where there was no black and white water fountains. There was no Jim Crow South. Somebody said, well, that wasn't what was going on in the 20s. No, but that America where it wasn't, that discrimination existed, but people of goodwill had to bring that future America into that present America. And so there's suffering in this world, but we're trying to bring the future non-suffering into this world. And so that's what we're going to be, but we're not going to miss the romance, because we just happen to be living through the roaring 20s or the raging 20s, and we're going to do our jazz and roll up our stockings and rouge our knees, or whatever it is we're going to do. We're going to have a great, great time. We're going to purpose to live in this timeline of life. Thirdly, we've talked about it, the focus of life. Thought A, the time of life. Thought B, the timeline of humanity. Thought C, where we're camping out today, the focus of life. Where are you in your adult decade? What adult decade are you in? We're in the raging 20s. Spring, summer, winter, or fall or winter, but where are you in the focus? What is the high priority? Where is the emphasis for this time in our life? So now let's get into it and take some notes today. First of all, each season of life, each and every season of life, you take this down, I'm going to slow down, has its own focal hierarchy. I know people don't like those big words, and I'm not trying to be, but each season of life, if I were to say it this way to you, has its own focal hierarchy, which means there are things that demand high focus, right? We've got to put a lot of our energy there. And then there are other things that, kind of as you work your way down the line, that may have, lower. And I'm not going to say that they get no focus, but they are lower on the focal hierarchy. What is the best place for you to put your attention in this season? We're talking about the focus of life. Where should your focus be? There are, I guess I can go back here. I would say, there are issues of primary focus, right? What is the primary focus of life at that time? And then you have kind of secondary, right? Foci, whatever, secondary focus of life. You have tertiary, right? You have your tertiary focuses. What does that mean? Well, it's kind of a thing between first and second. That thing. If you're running a race and you overtake the person in second place, what place are you in? That kind of thing. That old children's tale from the sea. But you have your tertiary, I'll just say it this way: 1, 2, and 3. and the list goes on down. But they're front burner and back burner, right? There are things that are demanding heavy attention and energy, and things that demand less energy. I was in a lunch one time. I was invited to be at lunch with the great Stovall Weems guest, and the great Steve Furtick were having a lunch, and I was like, you're invited to lunch. I was like, oh my gosh, now this is in another lifetime, one of toil and blood. But I was invited, and I'll never forget Brother Furtick saying, we always talk about time management. He said, but the real issue is energy management. It's not about time, it's about energy and what consumes energy and what's the wisest stewardship of energy. So where is your best energy focus according to the season of your life? And that's one thing to be wise about. That's one thing to be astute about. I have in my notes, you want to be discerning of your season and then navigate prudently, right? Internally, what season are you in? Navigate that internal season prudently. Externally, what season are you in? Navigate that external season prudently. And I kind of think of if you were a server. Connie used to be servers at restaurants. She worked in, was Crumbly Burger fast foodish? So she worked in a fast food place. But what did you do at Crumbly Burger? Were you on the food line or were you on the? Oh, she did everything. She was a Jane of all crumbles. So I worked, I was a maintenance tech at McDonald's, and there was a focal hierarchy to that first thing you do is in the morning is clean up the place, and clean up the bathroom, clean up the playground. Who puked in the ball pit, right? You got to do that. And whoever did what they did in the bathroom, you basically know this about McDonald's. Nobody goes to a fast food restaurant to have a casual sit on the throne of a toilet. I mean, they're only there because it's an emergency, and I'm the post-emergency cleanup. But that was my focal priority. But Connie also served. She served at various Hooters locations across the. Well, that's where she told me she got the shorts from. I don't know. She said, "Where'd you get these from work?" So she still got those shorts. They don't fit quite like they did when we first got married. But she really worked at Hooters? No, she did not work at Hooters. It was at the Twin Peaks. So Twin Cheeks, was it? I'm not sure where she worked. Anyway, but you have as a I cannot imagine what you must be thinking right now. But don't judge me. But you have you're as a server, right? You've got customers that have just sat down and you're putting water down. You got another customer that's already had their water. They're ready to order. You got another customer whose appetizers are coming. You got another customer whose main course. You got another customer, you're stopping by their table interested in dessert. You got another customer, you're going by the other table and say, anything else? Well, here's your check. You got another customer, you're coming back behind, you pick up the credit card. Everybody in different things. And managing life is that. You can actually be in one season of delivering the main course, right? You can be in one sphere of your life, but another sphere of your life, you'll just be setting down the water. Another sphere of your life, you'll be paying the bill and saying, I'm closing that out. All of these things. It's not a sequential chronological. You do this and you take a breath, and you do this and you take a breath. It's you got 12 different ships leaving at different times at different speeds, and knowing that internally for your focus of life is essential. So catch this. I hope you hear the message behind the message today. But in your notes, so it does not mean the fact that there is a primary, secondary, tertiary focus that you certain things. Well, this is not my top priority at this time, but I can't neglect it. It doesn't mean that there is any area in our life that gets zero focus. Although sometimes there are things that fall to the bottom. Things fall to the bottom of our focus, and we think, I just can't get to that right now because I have other priorities. I have other things in the hierarchy that I need to focus on. But I don't want to caution you, because I don't want you living in fear. That's a terrible word. That's a word from our old false religion. But I want to let some hindsight become your foresight, because we look at this here and we think, okay, I understand how it works. But in actuality, this is not how the focal hierarchy doesn't. This is not really a best image for it. A best image for it would be actually this. Would be a reverse pyramid, right? So you have up here our highest focal priority, And then you have the descending things, like a slice of pizza, right? Down here where you say, well, I've got, they kind of dwindle in focal hierarchy until you get down to here. Again, nothing that you can just say, I'm not going to do it, but it just doesn't get as much energy. And really why this is like this is these lower priority focus things are actually feeders that support the higher priorities, the higher focal priorities. So I'll give you an example. This is a beautiful example here. We talk about health, right? What happens? We've got, it's usually on the bottom. It's on the bottom in focal priority, but it's certainly not non-essential to the function at the top of your pyramid, right? So are you exercising? No, not really. Are you, I got the kids got to be up 5:30, got to be out the door. One's got to be at one's got the thing for the hearing school, got to be 6:30. The other one's got to be 7 o'clock. I got to drop my other one, got to pick up this. And I said, well, did you get to the gym today? Did I get to the gym today? Blankety blank, man. Somebody said, I renamed my toilet, Jim instead of John. That way anybody asks me what I did this morning, I spent about a half hour at the gym, in the gym, So that's kind of thing. And what happens? The health gets pushed down to the bottom. And you say, yeah, I can't concentrate on that. Well, it's not that you can't concentrate on that. It's that it doesn't get your full focal energy. But if that falls apart, right? Obviously, if the bottom layer of what we're dealing with falls apart, guess what else? Everything else comes crumbling down with it. And so now you get into this debate at the bottom of the health, right? What's the most important? Is it my physical health, right? Or my mental health, right? I got to take mental health time, yeah? But sometimes physical health feeds into mental health. But sometimes you got to be in a mental health place to get to the physical health. But sometimes if you can even get to the mental health place to will yourself into physical health, that's got some mental health payouts. I mean, what is it? But it's like, my gosh, I had a great day at the gym today. I also had 2 Twinkies, 2 Ho-Hos, 2 bonbons, and a Star Crunch. So, I mean, it's this ongoing thing. And then you say, well, what else would be on this priority? Well, maybe you come up the line and you say, well, maybe up here is just the order and function of my house, right? I got to keep things going. I got to keep the dishes. I got to keep the lawn. I got to keep the dusting. I got to keep this. And guess what? When you're up here and career and all of these huge foci, right? All of these mega things that come up here, guess what happens? Things further down the ladder, these roads here start to get overgrown. They're not as wide. They're not as clear. I think that's clear. I hope everybody grasps what I'm saying. Okay, so we're moving on. So seemingly lower areas on the focus list, they are essential to our thriving and our and maximizing our effectiveness. So here's a key. This is what I want to say. I don't want to caution you. I want to give you a key. No one gets this 100% right. I don't want you to hear what I'm saying and hear it in an old religious way of, well, if you would do more of this, you're blessed. I'm trying to put you at peace with nobody has their focus alignment correct. It's not possible. It's you move one hand to cover a spout and you move another hand cover a spout and you move a foot to cover a spout and you got your hip covering a spout. You can't cover all the spouts. Well, I can get that one, but you got to let one go. And that is part of living in the flow of life, which we'll get back to in our series. A lot of times our focus hierarchy is simply what's coming at us next. We would like to be people that are planned and organized, and I've got this and I've got this. And there are some people who suppose that they are. I always have a master plan and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times they've got that master planning thing down at the cost of their own peace and the peace of other people who are kind of cogs within that wheel. No one gets this 100% right. Even those who appear to have this 100% right, ask their loved ones. Ask those that are close to them. Man, they look like they got it all together. Well, ask those of you, how is it? It's pretty tough to live in that world. But, we all bring our own magic to the world. Some people bring the function, some people bring the pizzazz. And everybody in a house does a different thing, and everybody in a marriage does a different thing. And you don't ask your bird to pull your cart. Don't ask your ox to get to the top of the tree. Don't ask your parakeet to swim to the bottom of your pond, and don't ask your fish to sing you a pretty song. You gotta let people be people, and some people are uptight, some people are high strung, some people are hyper orderly, some people are high on the physical and low on the mental. Some people are high on the mental and low on the physical. Some people are high on external order but chaotic inside. Some people are high on chaotic external but kind of internally they've got peace. I mean, there's all sorts of different things. And I don't want you to hear this from bondage. I just want you to hear this as you navigate and say, okay, God, where is my focus of life right now? And you may say, I'm just barely treading water. I'm barely staying alive. My focus is whatever emergency is next. And I'm telling you, that's okay. That's okay. Because the temptation is that you feel like I'm not majoring on the majors, and so I'm missing out on everything. And that's not true. You're likely doing the best that you can. You're probably going to be able to improve 5 to 10% with a lot of hyper-focus in another area. And maybe if you can get 5 to 10% lift in one area and only like 3 to 4% drop in another area, I consider that a win. And I've lived long enough to know that obsessing over getting it perfect is missing out on life. But realizing there is some priority, and a lot of that priority is just what's next screaming my attention. Sometimes we're in a season where sometimes we're the dog and sometimes we're the tail. And depending on the season of your life, you might be in a spring, summer season or an autumn season where you feel like I'm being wagged. I'm not wagging. And that's okay, because even that experience of I feel like it's out of my control, that's part of that human experience. It's part of those life seasons. We like to think that our areas of focus are entirely unrelated. One's not related to the other. We like to think, well, I'm crushing it in this area, or I'm flailing in this area. I didn't use the word fail. I used the word flail, right? I'm like like one of those used car, little air people. I feel like I'm just flailing in this area. But those crushing areas and flailing areas are often inversely related, and we got to give ourselves grace. It's like, man, I'm really crushing it here, but I don't feel like I'm doing well here. Well, guess what? That might be the price of crushing it here. You just got to know where the priority is, because sometimes we're crushing it in areas that are not transcendent at the cost of transcendent areas. What do I mean? We're crushing it in areas that are temporal, that there's success and there's ego and there's opportunity and all that other kind of stuff, but the enduring relationships of friends and family, we're not getting as much for. And I'm not telling you, I am telling you nobody gets it 100% perfect. I don't suggest that you could ever find, people say, I'm trying to find balance in life. Blank balance. Go for harmony. How can you weave the things you gotta do and the things you want to do and the things you don't want to do? How can you come with a way to weave those together, to let the highs and the lows make a harmonious sound instead of trying to find the balance? And again, this all gets, tomato, or whatever it is. But what I'm trying to say is we're human. And when you're human, I want you to be aware of the focus of life, figure out what you have to focus on, and be at peace with some other stuff. Just in this season, it got pushed to the back burner. But it doesn't get totally neglected because the health of those lower things, right? You're probably not going to be able to see my, at these lower levels, right? Let's see if I can find it. The health of these lower levels, it's on your screen here. The health of these lower levels, right? It feeds into the higher levels. And so that'll make more sense as we go. I think you're okay here. It's things in the summer of life. Sometimes they fall behind. Some things in the autumn of life. Some things in the winter of life. So you're going to pay a price for that. If you let it fall behind in summer, you're going to pay a price for it in winter. That may be true. But sometimes the word that I did was the best that I could, and the best that I could. I'm going to have to ask grace to meet me. I'm going to have to ask goodness to meet me in the next season, because there's an arrogance, right? What's the dual deception? The dual deception is I didn't manage this well, and there's going to be no grace that will meet me in the future. That's a deception. It's got a companion deception. I did all of this perfect, and there will be therefore no challenge in my future season. Both of those are lies. You're going to need God in this season and the next. So what could be at the top? Well, maybe it's priority. Maybe it's career at the top of our thing. Maybe it's family at the top of our, theoretically we think, well, family should be first, but also we got to have a place to live, and we got to have bills, and we got to have money for school and books. So, why aren't you at every baseball game? Well, some parents can be at every baseball game. Some parents take on a second job and a night shift job and an Avon job and a Bright Candles job just to make sure that there can be a uniform for the baseball team. Right? At best, our highest priorities are brackish. Do you know what I mean by brackish? It's like brown and black together. Well, I guess it could be. But it's kind of a saltwater and freshwater meeting together. Like here's the St. Johns River and here's the Atlantic Ocean. But, you get in downtown Jax, you could see an alligator or a dolphin. Nobody knows. It's just right there. You know what else you could see in downtown Jax on February 8th? My show. You got to come see it, michaelconnie.com. Come see the show, man. I'm telling you. That's February 2025. If you're watching this in 2032, the dates have changed, but I'm still doing the show. Yes, I want to be super parent, right? Everybody wants to be super parent, but I also got a job. And really, super parent is often defined reactively to whatever you came out of, right? You either want to perpetuate, right? You want to bring the good that you came out of, but you also want to repudiate. I'm not going to be like my dad, or I'm not going to be like my mom. Either way, you're living reactively, and even living reactively is okay. And guess what? You're gonna underreact. You're gonna overreact. You're gonna pendulum too far. The areas that neglected, you're going to overcompensate for, and all of that is peaceful as well. Because why? You might not have understood it fully in your summer like you do in your autumn or like you do in your winter. You say, I wish I could go back. You can't go back, but you can say, grace, meet me in the season that I'm in. Because I didn't see at the time, or maybe I saw at the time, but I was just coping at the time. There's all sorts of grace for the last season that we need to show ourselves, and that postures us to receive grace in our present season, spring, summer, winter, or fall. So the focus of life, the adult decade, Connie and I purposing to live seasonally, purposing to live with recognition and reverence of the season. That's what I want for you. Purpose to live seasonally, to live with recognition. All right, where am I in the time of life? Where am I in the timeline of history? Connie and I are just putting our toes, stepping our toes into the autumn of life, right? My son got a couple more years winding down the springtime of life as my daughter starts off in the summertime of life. My dad inching now in just a couple of days here, so 16 days into he's going to go to the last 25%, of his life. He says he's going to make it to 100. He's getting ready to do the third lap, right? He's going to do another lap at 100. He's going to be working nights up there with mom and grandma and everybody else. But Connie and I purpose to recognize, all right, here is my life season. Here is my timeline of life, of human history. And here now is my focal energy, my focal hierarchy. For us, that is our kids, right? And somebody said, why are you talking about kids? We're talking about, I'm a grandma. I'm just telling you, I'm not telling you what your focus of life should be. I'm telling you where our focus has been, where it is. We talked about it last week. Connie and I are at multiple mission-critical moments and cross-sections right here with our children. Connie and I are entering a new season. Our parents, our remaining surviving parents are entering a new season. Our children are entering a new season, and closing out a lot of those, closing them out well. I mean, my son has 3 months left of high school, and I mean, he's finishing strong. He's 4.0. He's got academic scholarships. I mean, he's just shining. He's shining professionally. People are hunting him down for jobs and work and his creativity. I mean, it's on. But we got to get him to that place. We got to get him off one conveyor to the other. Olivia's coming out of college, 3.5 months. She's going to graduate. She's top of the class and doing this, and we're already being recruited. But we got to get that. It's it's like coming off an escalator, right? While you're on the escalators, or while you're on the moving sidewalk, but you go through one moving sidewalk to the next. That little hopping over and the speed change. We're trying to get them through that next season and doing that with recognition and reverence. It's a universal responsibility, first of all, as parents, to protect childhoods, to try to preserve happy childhoods. I'm not going to get into last week, but it's a communal responsibility. Even if you don't have children, even if your children is grown, you have a role within the beloved community of preserving these spring, summer things. Why? Because hopefully, if we minimize the injury, maybe there can be a little more thriving in that summer, fall, and winter. I was talking to my dad after last week's message. We sat down as a family. We often do. I encourage you to do this as well with family or friends, or just talk to somebody. So you have that church, you still listening to it. It's so great when I talk to members like, yeah, I told a friend and they listened, or I told my hairdresser and he listened, or I told my neighbor and they listened. I've been talking to my dad or whatever. And so Connie and I sit down with our kids and everybody. We just, tell me about the service. So we talked about it last week. And my dad said, think back. I thought this was poignant. Think back in your life when you were little to adults who impacted your life, to those who lifted you, right? Those adults who just by their kindness or by their grace or by their support or by their just looking out for you, they lifted your life. And you can also think back to adults that lowered your life, right? That, man, this person was just real mean, or this person was just, she didn't care about me, or whatever else it is. And, we all have those, and I would say that in some ways we're, I've always been nice to children. Well, ask your own children if you were always nice. Now, they might say on the whole you were a good mom, but I think if you go moment by moment, you blew it at times too. We all blow it at different times. But he said, think back over your life. The negative impact speaks for itself, right? But the positive things that people did in our life, you don't want to be the negative in somebody else's life, in the beloved community, but the positive, say, man, just this person saying this to me, just person saying, good game, or just person saying, that's a really great speech you gave, or just this person saying, I saw what you did there, and that was kind, or thank you for helping me, whatever it is that impacted you, guess what? That's actionable. How can you be that person in this communal shepherding of the next generation? How can you be that person in this that some person was to you? These are Christian thoughts. These are Christ thoughts. These are true religious thoughts. Not this, well, God's got to get who's going to get on the right team, and man, if you don't have a price for your sins and all this. I mean, all that's nonsense, right? What really matters is Christ incarnate. What matters is love in human form. What matters is not weaponized religion that we got to sign up for because God's on our side and who the hell's on theirs. What matters is that if our religion is real, it will translate the spiritual to the earthly. That is the kingdom. The next world, the peace and non-suffering and non-violence of the not yet world, let that come in the right now world. How's it going to come? Through those in whom it is already alive. That non-violence, non-suffering, non-ismed world is already in us who have met the person of Christ, apart from that chaotic, demonic, us-them, weaponized religious lens. And so our childhoods, right? What's the goal? The goal is a child should feel safe. A goal is a child should feel loved. A goal is a child should feel never abandoned. That's a big one. You don't want to let your children feel abandoned, right? You don't want to let your children feel that they ever close out a day not knowing where they stand. This is adult children too. Well, my adult child and this and that, and they suggested this and that, and maybe we shouldn't go skiing this winter, but this and that, and then the adult just shuts down. 50-year-old shuts down and doesn't call the 25-year-old back, and now the 25-year-old stressed. That's not who you want to be as a parent. You can say, look, we're okay, I'm okay, I don't like what's happening here, but sweetheart, you got to know we're okay. Why? Because even adult children don't want to feel like they've been put out on an island and left alone. And so how do you, I, me, we, right, interconnected, how do we serve this in the micro, the little world with my own children and my own neighborhood children, whatever else, and in the larger world with the children across the world? If there's going to be any ease of any suffering of any children that happens today, it won't be because God directed it and nudged it. It'll be because God directed and nudged you, right, by giving you that instruction about what true religion is. And Connie and I have walked many milestones with our children already, and we're getting ready to close out some more. Here we go. So let me talk about that. I want to do this not because I don't want to get to where I want to get in the series. There's 4 thoughts on season. We're stuck in number 3. I'd like to close out 3 today and get into 4 next week, maybe get into 4 next week at our TCO live service. But just want to walk you through these, and we'll walk through these and we'll close out. Maybe we'll close out a little early because I can't begin thought 4 because it'll turn into, it's a whole thing. So what are the seasons that we walk through? First thing we walked through with our kids was nurture and structure, right? Nurture and structure. They hatched, and the first thing we have to do is bring nurture and structure to their lives. There's routines, there's things that have to be done, there's spaces and places that are theirs, there are times that are theirs, and when they're young, it's like all time is theirs, and that goes for many years, where they are the dictators of all time. But nurture and structure, the first thing we brought into their lives, and nurture and structure includes command and control. And command and control is not abuse. Command and control is not harm. Command and control is not priding yourself on punishing the childlikeness out of a child. None of those things. I told you, if I go to your house and you've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and I'm there 3 hours and I never hear them, something's out of balance in the parental thing. So we say, which means you've either threatened them, you better not move, or I'll beat the cute off you, which is not healthy, or they're so lost at an iPad that they don't even know to come up and cause noise. I want a diversion. I want you yelling. I want you screaming. I want you coming in 5 times. Mom, can I have this? The way and they don't do this in the iPad world, and in the Reels world, and the Shorts world, and in the YouTube world. But the way I knew there was a commercial at my house was when the kids were watching Disney Channel, they would pop up, and I would hear Mikey and Olivia coming in, grabbing carrots, and must be a commercial, must be between shows. The iPads have taken away that. And not that there's anything wrong with an iPad. It's cheaper than a babysitter, I'll tell you that. Anyway, you're not ruining your children by them electronicing all the time. I'll tell you what, as a matter of fact, if you just figure out what they're interested in and talk to them about what they're interested in, they'll put that iPad down in a second. They got miles and years of stuff to talk to you about, but it's not always what you want to talk about. But I'm telling you, they know every influencer, they know every mukbang, they know everything stuff. They know every makeup, every this, every jaw maxing, sleep maxing, fragrance. The little kids across the street and all the fragrances. She says, "Hey guys, just putting on my makeup this morning." You want to talk to your kid, find out what they're talking. Want to talk to your grandchild, find out they got stuff to tell you. And one of the greatest things you could ever do is just sit down and say, "What's going on? Who is Bluey?" Right? Who did I just learn about? Bluey's the dog, right? Not Skibbity Toilet. Who did I just learn about? Who's the the kids that were here? They watched the Blippy. Man, Blippy. I learned all about Blippy. Blippy's 106 apparently from the kids that were here. Someone says, "I don't know anything about that. Is that annoying Kokum?" See, annoying. You're missing it right there. Nurture and structure. So command and control is not taking the child a likeness out of your children or your grandchildren. Command and control is when I'm getting your brother out of that car seat and I tell you to stand on the white line in the parking lot, they stand on the white line. And once you get command and control down, you don't have to hurt them, you don't have to beat them, you don't have to threaten them. You get to the place where you say, "Okay, just sit here for a second." Or when they're wilding out, when they're crashing out, you say, no, "We're not doing that. We'll talk about it in a minute." And once they know where the safety and the structure is, then they'll thrive. And if you start that at 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, the beatings, you don't need to beat them. You never need to beat them. You never need to threaten them. You never need to, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Your conversation is your friend. Ongoing entering their world. Ongoing talking. Ongoing discussion. Honest about the risks of life and the dangers of life, and putting in them a worldview of here. That's how we believe. All of this is part of the nurture and structure. And nurture and structure comes along with the second thing, nurture and structure, to safety and stability. That they want to feel like home is home. Family is my home base, right? So nurture and structure is part A there, number one. Number two is safety and stability. Family is my home base. Families where no matter what's going on, I can always return to here and reset. And you put that in them at the early years. So as I didn't put that in my children in the early years, we'll start it now. You put a narrative in their head. Home is always, you can always come home. We've got a bed here for you. It might not be your bed. Might not be a couch on mama's house with mama making you some soup and you can watch TV. Even if your whole life crashes out, son, you can always find, you come home here, we'll always be mama. We'll always have a blanket. Dad'll always get up and make you Jell-O. There's something about that, knowing that at 2, 3, 5, 7, 10, 15, 18, knowing that at 38. There's just something beautiful about knowing you can come home. And I agree that my children I talked to Mikey and Olivia about it. We've gotten mostly through our teenage years. Olivia coming up on 21, Mikey coming up on 18. By some miracle of drama freeness. But I will tell you, my kids, I tell them both, you've met us more than halfway. Right? It takes a calm and composed parent that's committed to dialogue, that's committed not to raging out, that's committed not to acting out and to intimidating and making all the threats. Once you've played all your threat card, once you've slammed and beat and run and threatened and taken the door and taken the phone and you played out all your cards. And we've just said we don't want to play out all those cards. We want to, let's talk our way through. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but how that made me feel, because when you say that, the old part of me says that this should get ugly, but I don't want to repeat those just fine. And we've had all those. And our kids, if thriving is meeting end zone to end zone at the 50-yard line, they have met us most of the way. They've been good kids. But what are good kids? I don't even know what good kids are. They've been kids, but they've been exceptional children. But the foundation of meeting us halfway in their teens and 20s started by meeting them way more than halfway in those younger years. And you say, well, you're trying to say your parenting turned out great children. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I don't know how they're going to turn out. I hope they're going to be thriving adults. I hope we didn't under-coddle or over-coddle or under-warn or over-warn or under-help or over-help. I have no idea how it's going to play out. I just know that we've minimized the drama along the way, and that had great peace to me. So my children know, right? This was helping me when I left Atlanta and I went to my spiritual father and I said, I feel like I'm supposed to go start a church in Jacksonville, and I'm scared. He said, you'll be fine. I said, no, I'm scared. He said, no. He told me, he said, there's greatness in you. You don't even know what's in you yet, and you won't know it until you stand on that pulpit. There's stuff that God, and so these were all very encouraging. But I was a grown man. I was 28 years old, 29 years old at the time, I guess. Yeah, somewhere, 29 years old. These were helpful things. And I said, well, I just want to know if I get down there and I fail. He said, you won't fail. I said, no, but if it turns into nothing. He said, it's not going to turn into nothing. I said, but if nobody comes, plenty of people come. But if there's no, provision, if Mike is going to be there, I said, I just want, he said, are you you want to know, can you come back? I said, yeah, just tell me there's a job in production somewhere. Just put me in the back corner. I don't need to come back as Minister Mike or whatever. I just need to know that I can come back. He said, if you just need to hear you can come home. He said, you can always come home. Do you know the safety and stability that gave me to step out into the larger world? And so with Connie, with our children, we start out nurture and structure, and then we move simultaneously. The next ship that gets launched is this safety and stability. I've got to keep on moving. Nobody's going to break my stride. 3, discern and observe personality. Boy, that's big. Discern and observe. Watch who they are. Your job is not to give them a calling. Your job is not to give them purpose. I don't even like calling and purpose. I think those are potential. Those are not good words, right? But discern and observe personality. Become a student of your child. Empower their strengths, right? Oh, I see how you're hardwired here. Then give them a context for their weaknesses, right? Because they'll compare themselves to other students, to this and that. Parents will start comparing. You're like your mama. You're like your daddy. Connie always says, I'm so glad I had these years with Mike and realizing what a nutcase he is, so that when my daughter came along and she was high-strung, I knew how to relate to my daughter because I understood what was going on with my husband. And my son is a very deep thinker. He's a very deep, contemplative person like me. He's also very tender and compassionate like his mom. And they're comparing, the kids are comparing them to each other. Well, Olivia does this and Mikey does this. And I wish I could create art like that. And I wish I could do this like that. I mean, all these other kind of things. And so you amplify, you empower their strengths, and then you contextualize their weakness. I sat them both down when they were little. I think it was at a Cracker Barrel, but I don't know where it was. Where was the jellies? I took all the jellies. I said, you see these jelly packs? It wasn't Cracker Barrel because they don't have them in the little stacky jellies, but whatever it is, Bob Evans or whatever, have the little racks. Okay, you're looking at me. You don't know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Come on, you're supposed to be my help section, right? Didn't Johnny Carson turn to Ed McMahon and whatever it is? You got to do something besides look cute, right? Good Lord, she's over there just looking cute. I need more than that from a woman. Anyway, I said, guys, you have your strength stacks. I said a perfect person, a circumspect person, fully developed, would have 10 stacks of 10. 10 jellies, 10 grapes, 10 strawberries, 10 blackberries, 10 honey packs, 10 this. That'd be a perfect person. But that's not how it is, because somebody got 14 over here in this grape jelly thing. But guess where those 4 came from? Their strawberries a little down. That's how it works. And what you're doing is you're empowering. Look at where your strength is. And then you're contextualizing. But just because you don't do this and this, it's maybe we can get that 4-pack of strawberry up to a 5, maybe up to a 6 if we give it its due. But we're not going to try to turn you into a 10 there. Why? Because that's not the way you were hardwired. Because I'm not dictating your personality and calling. I'm observing it and discerning what that is. And so what do? We foster those things, and we take their little plants, and our job is not to determine what kind of plant they are. Our job is to just kind of tilt that little pot towards the light. Oh, the light's over here now. Oh, the sun is moving, and you want to try to get that towards the light. This is where Connie and I have been for the last 20 years. You want to educate and empower. Number 4, educate and empower. This is equipping them for discovery, to go out and interact with the world. You want to educate them and empower them. Tell them about the real world. Tell them the goings on in the world. Teach them politics. Teach them dynamics. Teach them personalities. Teach them how to read and discern the landscape. So why? So they're educated, they empower, they can go out for discovery, and guess what? Debriefing. That while they're home, they go out and discover and experience, and then as a family, we come back and talk about that. And no subject is off limits. There's no shame at all. There's no sexual shame. We're not trying to say, oh man, you're going to be a sexual deviant, you're going to go to hell, and you're going to do this and that. We don't believe in any of that kind of stuff. We just say, this is good and this is great. Watch out for this, watch out for that. One thing you want to be mindful of, and this has purpose and that doesn't. And a lot of people you'll see is this and that, and man, substance is this and that is one of those things that starts out as fun, but then it starts costing you more as you go. We taught them how to gamble, and we taught them about drinking, and we taught them about drugs, and we taught them about the brains, and we taught them about sex, and we taught them about marriage, and we taught them about money. We're educating them and then empowering them, and they come home and like, oh my God, Dad, it was just like you said. There was a thing and there was a thing. And it's just like we talked about, and we don't talk about, look at all those awful people. We talk about, well, what must be going on in their lives? How much? Man, you think about it, there's a story there, isn't it? We're raising them as empathetic people. We're raising them to understand that everybody travels a different road to get to where they are, and they look in their internal and external road, and what Legos do they have? Some people start out with a 128 Crayola pack with 2 sharpeners and colors in there that are just like, berry bliss and all that. Other people start out with they leave childhood with 2 crayons from a Cracker Barrel, both chewed up, both yellow, and one may or may not have ketchup on it. And that's how. But we don't treat the world to judge. We just say, look at the tools you have. We've educated with that. We've empowered you to go out and discover. Now let's come back while you're 10, 12, 15, 17, 19, 21, and debrief on your experiences and help you contextualize. This is where our focus has been. Somebody say, why does that matter to you? Because I'm telling you what, home education, raising kids, my son turns 18 this year, he gets into college, he's already started, he's doing great. My daughter graduates from college, she's already got job offers, she's doing great. Connie and I, January of next year, hit our 25th anniversary from our first date. 6 months after that, we hit our 25-year wedding anniversary. Don't ask me or mine for nothing. I told her on January 26th, we're getting in the car. We will see you all 2 weeks after August 5th. Don't ask us for nothing. Why? 25 years with the focus of establishing, building, having the next generation, making them our top priority. Guess what? They've been up at the top of our food chain. Thing 1 and thing 2 here, right? Thing 1 and thing 2 have lived up here at the top of the priority. And guess what? Connie and I and all our romance and all that other kind of stuff was down here. We couldn't neglect the romance. We couldn't neglect the naked time. We couldn't neglect the sleep-in time. Why? Because if we bottomed out as individuals, Connie can't neglect her individual time, right? Her individual stuff. We can't neglect that. We can't totally neglect our health and fitness. But I will tell you this, if this is the us stuff, us has been down here, and for 20 years they've been up here. But guess what? I'm not putting them on the bottom right before taking out the trash. They're not going to be under that. They're just moving from position 1, and they're going to go down to position 2. And guess what's happening with us? It's going to be naked time for Hitler in Germany. That's where we are. We're going to have a blast. That's what we're going to do. Somebody say, why? Because it's a season shift for us. We've put an entire season getting through springtime into summer, and then there will come a season where we will take a massive 2, 3, 5-year thing, and then guess what? Oh, new generation time comes in, and we start working on those new generations. This is the path of life. So now we've given our kids a lifelong landing pad. Right? They know there's nothing they're going to bring home that they experience that we can't debrief on. They know there's not going to be a hole that they get in that we can't pal around, that God's not too big to get out of. There's life beyond divorce. There's life beyond addiction. There's life beyond breakdown. There's life beyond mental health issues. There's life beyond mistakes. There's life beyond crashing businesses. There's life beyond all that. And no matter what happens, God is there, and they're surrounded by love, and they are beloved. And so we've created this lifelong landing pad, which now gets us to the place where we can start soft launching them. And we're soft launching them. We're not kicking them out. We want them to stay here till 22, 23, 25, 27. Doesn't matter to us. Why? Might as well have that money going in your bank account. We say, I got my own home. Go get your own home. But guess what? We still want to keep this bond. Why? Because we want to be your lifelong landing pad and a future and forever safe haven. This has been the focus of the last 20 plus years of our life. And this season of this generational thriving, it never ends. It never ends. It just takes on new dimension. Why? Because eventually supporting Mikey and his family, spouse and family, and Olivia and her spouse and family, right? Supporting those two things is actually, Connie and I supporting those new entities is actually another way of supporting the thriving of our offspring. And then grands and great-grands. And what is it about the word grand that you don't understand, right? Adult decade by adult decade, supporting that thriving in different dimensions, not only in the little with our own 2 children, and hopefully Mikey's committed to 9. I think he cut 9 grandkids down to 5, I think now. He said he would have to ask his wife. I said, I think you should, but Olivia was like, so it was good that Mikey was going to have 9 because Olivia was having 0. And we're like, Olivia, you're not going to have any children? And she was like 8. She said, no, I'm not having any children. Why aren't you having any children? She said, because I saw them put the IV in someone's arm. I do not want them to put the IV in. I said, oh, dear. The IV is the least of your concerns. But anyway, I think she's now ready to, do, she's open to 1 or 2. So if Mikey gets 5 and she gets 1 or 2, that's 7. I mean, who's got it better than 7? Are you kidding me? 7 little Christmas trees in my foyer, 7 little different ornaments to give them out, 7 kids jumping and splashing and fishing and just running around my house. My God, who's got it better than I do? But as we transition now, Connie and I, that focus is winding down for us to get a fresh breath of each other, right? To put on a new hat, to go in that new season. And just like we talked about spring, summer, winter, fall, you can be in the prime of summer and winter can descend just like that. I mean, we just saw it in the news. It's in the news every day, right? People in the springtime, summertime of life, winter is there. So life is precious. Every season is precious. Milking every bit of goodness, squeezing the orange is precious. And you could be in a season where you think, I'm going to get 5 years of generational thriving. And Mikey could pop up tomorrow and say, I'm getting married before I go to college, and we're going to have a baby in, 9 months here or whatever. And say, well, guess what we're doing? Guess what? The grandma train just arrived early. Connie's in perimenopause trying to get to, isn't that sad? You get to perimenopause, you graduate. What did you win, Bob? Menopause. I mean, so that's crazy. Or she's like all stressed out. I don't like this. I don't like the hot flash. I said, relax. It's just grandma practice. Listen, you didn't want to have your first period when you were little, but you can't become a mom unless you cross that bridge. You can't become a grandma unless you go through this bridge. And so it kind of makes sense. I don't know. And then I started having issues. She said, maybe it's just grandpa practice. I said, shut up. What does our home look like in this new season? Travel, right? Maybe we got 5 to 8 years before Olivia has kids. Maybe Mikey 8 to 10 years. I'll take 1 year. Doesn't matter to me. I'll take it how it comes. Doesn't matter to me. I want my children empowered. I want them to feel financially confident. I want them to have a little easier. I don't want them to have to build a life with one hand, do 1 season of building and 1 season of rearing offspring. I mean, hopefully you get them a little sequentially, but we'll meet it there. Plus us maybe living in the late 70s and 80s, having great grands, lots of good times ahead. That's just my focus now. That may not be your focus. I'm not teaching you, here's what you need to focus on. I'm teaching you, find where your season is and find that focus of life. Perhaps you've never been married. You've never had kids. But guess what? You're still a part of a thriving narrative. You're still a part of, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a friend, as a god mom, a god dad. Maybe you're just Auntie Joan, or maybe you're just Uncle Tim. You're not really a blood uncle, but you are part of the communal thriving. Part 1 of this is about your soul, right? Your soul and your sin. Part 1 is about your striving, or part 2 is about your striving and building your life. This is about family. And you say, I don't have family. Well, you do have family, because the Bible says, the Hebrew scripture says, God sets the solitary in families. There's a network around you. There's a clan around you. You're part of a hive, and you're placed within that family, within that clan, within that hive. That is your place within the story of human thriving. And that next generation, I don't care where you are, spring, summer, winter, or fall, we all have the responsibility for the protection and preservation across the globe of thriving childhoods. So where are you in the focus of life, your time of life, spring, summer, winter, fall, your timeline of humanity, the raging 20s, the reality and the romance, and now your focus? And things are always focused. You got one table over here, you got one person here, you got one thing there, you got a little bit of career, a little bit of new marriage, a little bit of remarriage, a little bit of divorce. Things are winding down, things are ramping up, but saying, okay, God, internally I'm in a season, externally I'm in a season. I thank you that there is grace that has gone ahead, that has met me here, so that I can not only move to a place of thriving, but I can also be a conduit for thriving for those that are around me, particularly thriving of those generations to come. And the next is thought D, so I think we will close right there. I hope you got something today. I hope you heard something beyond the message today, because we're in deep Christ thoughts now. So as always, if these messages week in and week out, first message in a new month, you say, well, I've been listening since the beginning of the year. Have you supported? Have you said, man, this content is blessing me, and it's proper for me to be a blessing in return? That's a good word. It's proper for you to be a blessing in return. So you can reach us. You can just support. This is, am I going to get a write-off? You're not going to get a write-off. This is you supporting this man and this woman, saying, wow, I'll tell you another thing. I was talking about it last night. Nicodemus, had the luxury of being a follower of Jesus in secret. Like, he got to keep his entire world as a Pharisee and all his Pharisee buddies and barbecues or whatever they did, kosher, I'm sure, non-pork, none of the devil's meat there. But he also got to secretly believe all the things that Jesus was teaching. It's like, I think you really are the one. Well, that's wonderful to live in that, and that's what's happening. I realize so many on TCO, they're like, oh my God, I totally get what you're saying. I totally appreciate what you're saying. It's so true. It's so real. Because like I'm in another church and I think we keep telling people going to hell. That's not right. That's great. It's great that you live in secret. Guess what? Connie and I are out. So your support, it's great that you're ministered to. Oh, I watch on Mondays, but Connie and I are out. And guess what? We don't get to keep the luxury of our old circles. There is a price to be paid for declaring religion. And you know what? You guys supporting us. I mean, there's an emotional price. There's a friendship and circle price. There's a public shaming price. There's a financial price. But if you go, hey, I support you. This means something to me. Then I thank you. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have a cup of coffee. We don't have a member subscriber program. We just got you saying, I'm eating here. Of course. I want to bless your life, Mike and Connie, like you're blessing my life. And we thank you, and all the information is there. But beyond that, our church doesn't have a steeple. Our church doesn't have a parking lot, a building program. We don't need snack crackers. We don't need anything. Well, what about my tithes, offerings, building funds, and all? What am I supposed to do with that? Well, you find whatever part you say you're going to support Connie and I, take all the rest of that out and go be a blessing. Go find suffering in the world and eliminate it. Find somebody on your job. Find somebody in your neighborhood. Find somebody who needs something. Find a child across the world. Find a child local. Find somebody who could use a Christmas, somebody who didn't get a Christmas. Find a single mom. Find a guy who's really struggling. Find a dad who's trying to there's suffering all around if you have eyes to see. And go and put your religious energy there. So I don't have to be about money all the time. Sometimes just be present, just being a voice, just being someone of love, just being a good man, a good woman, a good person. It's a great way to start practicing true religion. At home and away, embody love, ease suffering, give, serve, help, hear, and affirm people. Build community among those who treasure human sympathy above religious certainty. People say, oh, I believe in God. As long as you're on my team, you're on God, and everybody else, I guess you're just deceived. There's no fellowship there. Why? Because we don't even think the same world. But I'll tell you what, you'll get out there where you got red, yellow, brown, black, white, you got gay, straight, you got Muslim, Jew, Gentile, atheist, Christian, you got them all out there, and they're placing humanity, full humanity, above their religious exclusionary certainty. Now you're in a fellowship. I just need to be around people that are like-minded. Put yourself out there where God is love, and love takes on human form. And that's your place of fellowship and connection. Amen. All right, let me bless you. Peace, protection, preservation, soundness, health, abundance, and aboveness on you and yours, long, satisfying life, that you will discern and steward and navigate and rest in the complicated season you're in, for they're all complicated. The ministry of angels around you, the joy of the Lord, peace inside and out. We speak life and love on you and yours. Connie and I agree on this. In Jesus' name.